Imagine for a second a world where reverence doesn't actually require belief. A world where your integrity, just your own personal integrity, is the most sacred thing you can offer, and where your sincerity is the only ticket you need to walk into a temple. Well, today we're diving into an ancient philosophy that offers exactly that.
It's a huge question, right? It really gets to the heart of how we see ourselves and what we value. Can you have all the practice of spirituality without, signing on to a specific faith? Can you find that deep sense of meaning without the metaphysics? Well, this philosophy has a pretty profound answer. And it doesn't start with some dusty old scripture or a big sermon. It starts with a simple, direct conversation right at the doorstep of a sacred space.
Okay, so let's set the scene. Picture yourself inside this temple hall. A new group of initiates is all gathered, and the temple guide steps up. But instead of asking them to recite a creed or a statement of faith, the guide says something totally different. They say that whether you believe in gods or not doesn't disqualify anyone from being here. I mean, that's a very different kind of welcome, isn't it? And you can just feel the tension in that moment. One of the initiates steps forward and admits this. They're clearly sincere, but they're worried that their lack of belief is somehow a form of disrespect. They're basically asking, am I even allowed to be here?
The guide's response is so powerful because it's not a judgment. It's not a yes or no. It's a complete redirection. It basically says, you're asking the wrong question entirely. And boom, there it is. This one line just brilliantly lays out the core idea. The focus completely shifts away from claims about what's out there in the cosmos to the posture you take right here in reality. It's not about what you think is true up in the heavens. It's all about how you act on the ground. So what is this fundamental distinction they're making? Well, it comes from an ancient philosophy called Arreqqanarra, and it builds its entire ethical system on separating two core concepts. So let's break these down. On one side, you've got leh, which is belief. This is your model of the world, what you think is true. And on the other side, you have khiyya, or practice. Now, this has nothing to do with your explanations. It's all about your conduct. It's about who you are in action. In this framework, a belief is treated, well, kind of like a scientific hypothesis. It's optional, it's revisable. You can change it when new evidence comes along. It's a claim about reality, not a claim about you, which means disagreeing with your belief isn't a personal attack on you. Practice, on the other hand, that's a whole different ballgame. That is all about you. It's your actions, which anyone can see. It's about skills you can actually train, like discipline or ethical restraint. This is where your accountability really lies, and it's measured by your actual behavior over time. And once you make that separation, once you uncouple belief from practice, something pretty remarkable becomes possible. You can have a deep, meaningful spirituality that doesn't require gods as metaphysical agents at all. So the crucial point here is that spirituality isn't about theology. It's defined as a set of trainable internal skills. Things like cultivating your own inner coherence, aligning your actions with your values, and using rituals as, get this, psychological technology, tools for grounding yourself. And what's really fascinating here is just how practical these spiritual technologies are. Temple rituals, they're not about obeying a god. They're about grounding yourself in your community. Chants aren't prayers to someone, they're a form of breath regulation. This is spirituality as a toolkit for living a better life. This stance is actually so common in this culture that they have a specific name for it, Kwaya Seren, a spiritual non-theist. And it's not seen as some kind of contradiction or a lesser form of spirituality. In fact, it's often really respected for its intense focus on unshielded personal accountability. So that brings us to morality. If being good isn't about obeying some divine command, then how do you measure it? Well, for the Arreqqanarra, the true test of your character isn't whether you make a mistake, it's what you do after you've made it. They use this chart, the 5 axes of goodness, to measure character in action. Let's just look at the first one, harm accounting. You pass if you name the harm you caused without minimizing it. You fail if you deny it or try to deflect. Then there's repair behavior. Do you fix the harm voluntarily, or do you have to be forced? You see, it's not about being perfect, it's about being responsible. This is the role written right there under the chart, and it's just so profound. It completely reframes failure. It's not a permanent stain on your character, it's an opportunity to demonstrate your character. The real moral breach isn't the mistake, it's refusing to clean up your own mess. So let's see how this plays out in real life. A young leader makes a bad call, and it causes some harm. A mediator doesn't come in and shame them. Instead, they just state a fact. You failed Axis 1. And then they immediately pivot to the thing that actually matters.
Now look at the youth's response. They don't make excuses. They don't deny what happened. They accept the consequences, and right away they lay out a concrete plan for repair. That's Axis 2, repair behavior. And they just passed it perfectly. And here is the powerful conclusion from the mediator. They make a distinction between a failure of judgment, making a bad call, and a failure of goodness, which would have been refusing to fix the damage. An error might test your intelligence, but the repair, that tests your character. So why does this ancient philosophy feel so incredibly relevant right now? Well, because it offers us a way out of one of the biggest traps in our modern world, the trap of confusing our beliefs with our identities. The Arreqqanarra actually have a name for this, the identity overload error. It's what happens when we wrap our whole sense of self, our safety, our community, our belonging, all of it, into our belief systems. When we do that, any challenge to our beliefs feels like a threat to our very existence. I mean, this quote just says it all, doesn't it? By separating what we believe from who we are in action, we can disagree with each other without feeling like we're being destroyed. We can be wrong without being worthless. We can even change our minds without losing ourselves in the process. And that just leaves us with a final, pretty provocative thought to chew on. In a world where there are no divine judges to please or metaphysical rules you have to obey, what becomes the ultimate measure of a life well lived? What if it was simply the coherence of your actions, the honesty of your efforts to repair harm, and just the quiet weight of your own integrity? What if that was enough?